It has been a packed and stacked week with tons of news, everything from the state of play by Sony, as well as various different titles being shown and released this week. Sit on back. I have some surprises for you inside this newscast, so sit down with me, relax, put your seat back. Let's discuss some gaming. If you like videos like this, if you like news, but not just the news regurgitated to you, give it a thumbs up, subscribe. I would love for you to do so. If you don't want to do that, check out a YouTuber you like, give them a subscription. Let's begin. With Night Dive taking on so many remake titles, it's only prudent that we ask about some of the ancient granddaddies of grotesqueness, over-the-top arena shooters, and other huge hitters of the past, and wonder if they're coming as well, such as Unreal. Stephen Kick of Night Dive said today on Twitter that after the Quake remaster, Cliffy B reached out to Tim Sweeney of Epic on their behalf and asked Lord Tim on high if there was a possibility of something Unreal that could be made or remastered, which we can all assume is either Unreal Remake or Unreal Tournament 1999, which is, as has been proven by fact, to be one of the best arena shooters ever. Sadly, no response was forthcoming, and Cliffy B even responded to the tweet by Steven and said, "Not saying anything for legal reasons." Which could mean Tim isn't saying anything. It could mean Cliffy isn't saying anything for legal reasons, or it could mean that Cliffy isn't saying anything for legal reasons because something may happen. It's an unfortunate response that adds even more unclarity, or cloudiness if you will, to a situation that should be pretty clear-cut. Everybody wants an Unreal Tournament game. That's just the way it is right now. The game had incredible weapons, insane levels, and even until this day has a massive following. Seeing that actually be made by Night Dive is better news than Lawbreakers itself being released by Cliffy B into death. I am crossing my fingers. The return of an Unreal game could be a huge boon, not only to gamers themselves, but cross-gen. Platforms cross that, but also the competitive market as a whole. The only thing that would make me happier would be a first-person shooter based on the show Justified, where Raylan Givens just drops one-liners every time he kills someone. Until that time, though, multi-kill. Next up, GeForce Now removing God of War, and is that a sign of things to come? That's a good question, and one that's quite important. So, with the advent of Sony's own streaming services, even though they haven't even figured out their own tiers, we know it's here and we know what they want to do in the future. Questions have been raised about how they would be handling their own games on other services, such as GeForce Now across the PC spectrum. Will that leave gamers with nothing? Well, Nvidia announced that God of War is going to be removed soon from the GeForce service. However, if you play it prior to its removal, get this, it actually won't be removed. It'll be removed if you own the game but haven't used streaming to access it. I think when you take into account the oddities of all these situations, what we're seeing now is probably Sony wanting gamers on their own gaming services, which is fair as a company, as well as a possible pattern that we're going to see for their other future games. Let's just hope that they actually get to GeForce Now and you have that moment to play it and lock it down to your library versus not at all. Anybody pretty much past the crib is old enough to understand and remember how subs work on companies that switch around. For example, we've had sub services that have moved shows from one streamer to another and moved around entire companies as they play hot potato with your data. And we're seeing that kind of thing here. So if you own the game, playing it on GeForce Now streaming so that they don't remove it from the service is the best plan. Do so. For anyone who doesn't, it's going to be gone. Keep an eye out for this occurring more often as we see Sony try to solidify itself and try to come up with some novel approach to their own streaming services and their own offerings. We are looking at a situation where they also just recently announced another Sony game, not only the leak of Returnal, but of course, we are now seeing that Spider-Man is coming to PC. How will these be handled by the streaming services? How will these be handled across the various different ways of getting them? We don't know, but stay tuned because I think we should keep an eye out for this. I do, unfortunately, think we're going to see this a lot more. Now, I could sit here and talk to you about PSVR 2 because we did see some stuff from the state of play. I'm going to talk about one or two games here in the next news bit, but I want to talk about something different that probably isn't going to be covered, but is actually bothersome to me, and it's the way that Sims is being handled by EA. Now you may think to yourself, why is he covering this? Well, because I actually enjoy The Sims, and Sims Werewolves was announced, and I just gotta say, Nothing originally in the game is more enjoyable than building a huge swimming pool and then putting everyone inside and deleting the ladders, or having someone deathly afraid of germs, or removing all the trash cans and just watching them fall apart. Those kind of things are hilarious, and the building isn't half bad. Sims isn't a game for everybody, I get that. But as Sims 4 has got its feet sort of underneath it, it's had a couple noteworthy expansions. If we ignore the one on the island that made you feel bad and basically had the players cleaning up litter and called that a game. So when Sims Werewolves got announced, for a moment, just a brief moment, I got excited. I have loved past supernatural content for the Sims games. It adds entire schedules around those creatures, new powers, ways to interact in the game world, and new building, and I just really do love those as sit back, listen to a podcast, play kind of games. And then they showed the trailer. Seriously, this would be like a hard school World of Darkness fan mistaking Twilight for Blade 2. The werewolves look like humans with furry heads, or even more so, just furry masks. The interactions look lame. The entire way it's presented is like a teen drama. Think Vampire Diaries without the dying and the bloodshed, and no Nina Dobrev. The Sims moving across this soft territory isn't as bothersome to me personally as it might be to others. I've sort of grown away from it, but I do still track it. And there are times where they do add content to the game that appeals to me, or somebody makes a mod that's just creepy enough I want to jump in. But what that's actually done is made it so that many times mod makers are the ones who have to take over everything and fix whatever crap EA has done. The game does add a new land and new people, jobs, skills, powers. We also just have to wait and see how it's going to turn out. But so far, that trailer hit like someone shooting a wet turd out of a rubber band gun. Nothing about it was appealing, and it was a goddamned mess. My hope is it's not that bad and we see more supernatural creatures being entered into this title. I also do believe that Sims 4 should be put to rest, and we should be seeing a Sims 5 now with all of the adjustments and the improvements that we have on graphics and ability. But many times these companies just don't want to move forward. And that's the next spot we're going to talk about. A company that is so lodged in the past, half of the time, I just don't even know if they know what year it is. That's Capcom. Fans of the Resident Evil franchise had a very positive reaction to the highly anticipated revelation that a remake of Resident Evil 4 is now in development. I think that's awesome. Concurrently, I think it's also sort of brought back interest in the remake for Resident Evil Code Veronica that a lot of people have asked for, particularly among longtime followers of these games. Even before the rumors of Resident Evil 4, by the way, began to circulate long ago, there was a lot of curiosity around the Code Veronica title, especially because when it got released, how it got released, and the type of game it was, there were some big differentiators within it that I think made a lot of people interested. And that's probably one of those titles that I know the most Resident Evil fans have not played. Many people have also mentioned that Resident Evil 4 has been ported already anyway, and this shouldn't take back anything from the fact that Resident Evil Village is going to be on PSVR 2, which is a fantastic get for that system, even though it wasn't my favorite Resident Evil game. But Alex NL is a developer on the current remake, even told followers to tweet Capcom about Code Veronica if you want. Now, if you've been tracking Capcom, though, they still think Sunday rides involve petticoats and a fucking horse and carriage. Their response to almost any fan's desire is to seem totally surprised that gamers want something else. Case in point, Dragon's Dogma 2, which gamers wanted so bad, Capcom promptly made an MMO for foreign markets and thought that was good enough. And that is some serious side channeling. I mean, I might get bigger if I look at greased up pictures of The Rock eating muffins on cheat day, but probably not. You actually have to put in the work. And for me, it is always surprising that Capcom bounces around to all these other titles, especially something as so well tread on as Resident Evil 4, which has seen release on pretty much everything, even those little LCD screens that come on some keyboards. After I say all that, I'm telling you right now, if you want these kind of games from them, go and tweet them. Who knows? Maybe the person running the Twitter account will realize that other people are on the end and not just a fancy blue labeled Ouija board they're talking through, like they think they're just discussing games with spirits. And speaking of spirits, there is one title that I always hear people talk about when they say that a game has got the spirit of a shooter and the feeling of an awesome survival shooter, and that is Escape from Tarkov. The number of people I know who absolutely adore this game, even back in the janky days to now in the, well, slightly less janky days, the number of fans for Escape from Tarkov are incredibly high. Escape from Tarkov Arena announcement trailer just hit. The game, known for survivalist tendencies, creeping around in the dark side camps of enemy humans so that you can celebrate bringing home a single can of soup back to your own stash, is getting its own arena game. Escape from Tarkov has hit such a stride so far, a game that shares a spot in a genre with a couple other titles but can easily call itself unique, possibly the best of the bunch. It requires expertise, awareness, excellent gunplay, and understanding from players, and rewarding players for risks that they take, more so than a lot of other games. Unlike FIFA that goes with a fake foil card pack for its risk, Tarkov has done it with a game that knows how to define usefulness. Most everything in the game is useful. Most every sound you hear is. Decisions that you make are all based around utilitarian decisions. And then, again, they announced an arena game. It's a short trailer, you can see it here now. If that sounds odd to you, well, yeah, it is. Escape from Tarkov Arena is a multiplayer shooter, arena-like game. Some might say it's a bit like the Call of Duty type map-style game modes we've seen as of late, or in the last 10 years. Well, the genre itself is stunted like a teen huffing silver paints, can't figure out that SAT doesn't stand for Saturdays. Tarkov's devs do know a couple more things about how to make a game enjoyable and some intrigue. So I'm a little bit hopeful here. We'll have to see how they push it, but they have discussed that it's going to have the same hard combat of the original game, but in that different kind of mission format based in the world that Tarkov is also based in. A separate game in and of itself. We don't know how this is going to go, but it could also be a great way to get people into Tarkov, because one thing to understand is that Tarkov itself can be quite a giant bite for a gamer to get into, understanding just exactly what it's requiring. The idea of maybe jumping into an arena shooter and finding out that there is this massive other style game out there might help more people jump in. Price and exact dates are unknown for the Escape from Tarkov Arena, but you're bound to be seeing some people talking about it, that's for sure. Another thing I've been talking about both in the State of Play video that we did as well as the various different videos that I've done separately are games like Stray and other PSVR titles that have been announced, and we also saw Streetfighter 6 finally get its leak. Now, Streetfighter 6 is interesting to me as a side note or an honorable mention for the news, because not only did the graphics and art style actually intrigue me, I was a fan of what I think is that secondary mode, which is sort of a run around the game world mode and possibly fighting people as you follow along a story. I'm a huge fan of the ancient days when Mortal Kombat Annihilation and Mortal Kombat Armageddon did those kind of things, those secondary style modes. And remember, Street Fighter V didn't even have a single-player mode, so the idea that we might get two could be crazy. Unfortunately, whoever made the trailer is a hot mess. That is one of the most difficult to follow trailers I've ever seen in my life, bouncing between cutscenes to full-on 2D fighting to the 3D world without really making the player understand that the switch was a full-on moment switch and not just a camera pan changeover. One of the things that confused a lot of people were moves that looked like special moves that then actually turned around to be just the same character pulling off a move but in a completely different location. You never want to hear confusion like that. Street Fighter 6 does look insane to me. 22 people will be in the game. They've got a lot of different fighters in there, and that graffiti-like style I'm actually okay with. I liked what I saw, and the fighting looked pretty damn good. Another thing that looked pretty good was Stray. This is the cat game. It's coming to the PS4 and the PS5 on July 19th, and I think that this one's not necessarily exclusive, but it may just come out to them early. It's also going to be on their Plus Extra and Premium services. Stray is a cat game where apparently only cats are left as the biological form on this world, at least from what we can see. And the rest of the world is actually robots that appear slightly scared of them. If you watch this game, a couple things you will notice are just how well the platforming's handled. Watch it as the cat moves from different areas. Watch it as the cat licks its butt. I'm just joking, it doesn't lick its butt. But watch as the cat moves from different areas and jumps across different things. The actual way that the game handles that cat moving around feels far more defined than, let's say, Last Guardian, which is another game with a creature that a lot of people played that had a lot of hatred for the movement. This is a game where, of course, the Stray is smaller, but the way it moves makes it feel like this could be something that has a very tight control scheme and really does work well. Also, there's a lot of intrigue here. What's exactly going on? Why are the robots scared? How many cats are there? Did they hunt the cats down? Are the cats actually humans and the robots are just, well, robots cleaning up after them, and so they don't have to worry about shitter boxes? Who knows? I think Stray looks phenomenal just as a question mark title. I'm excited to see it. But my excitement for that game can't even come close to the excitement I feel for this next game, which is subscribe if you like this channel. actually the Calissto Protocol. So this looks to be a spiritual successor to the Dead Space games. Now, I've been fully honest that the Dead Space games were a little slow for me, but I do like their ideas. One of my favorite movies is Event Horizon. I like those kind of things that go on, and I actually think the games themselves have tried to nail it over and over and over again for all three, even though 3 turned out to be sort of poop. The Calissto Protocol, though, in those trailers looks hot. Now, I want to give you a warning. They state very clearly in the trailer that they have altered some of the camera angles for the trailer. Why do I bring that up? I'll talk about it at the end of this. So as you watch this trailer, one of the first things you're going to see is a massive amount of impact of everything. The guy pulls the gun, shoots it, and it's like a howitzer. It's this massive gun anyway. It looks like a 50 cal, and it whips his hand back, and that feeling of epic motion is right there. As the guy moves around the animations, he crawls up this chain, and you can actually see the weapon shifting with him. His shoulder blade moves the different items that are on his back. He has his life bar on his neck so that you can actually see that without having to bring up a HUD. Many things that we've seen in Dead Space. But where the Calissto Protocol nails it for me, where the Resident Evil games have actually missed it a couple times, and that's the feeling of that impact. If you watch any moment here with the melee weapons, he's smashing and dashing and stabbing and slashing, and you see every single impact hard hitting from moment to moment. Every single impact, whether it be against you or from you, looks like it has a heavy shake on the camera, but not so much to distort it or make you actually confused about what's going on, but just enough to tell you that when you take 18 pounds of heavy lead and you swing it into somebody's head, well, it's going to be fruiticide. That is what this game looks like. It's got the horror up to the tilt, and it looks like it is a title that is going to absolutely nail it for space horror fans. The movement looks good, everything about this game, and I got to tell you, that is some of the best facial animations you will see in a long time. That's a Grizzly Adams looking motherfucker that you play as the main character. It looks awesome. We see moments here and there, and unfortunately one or two what I consider to be almost slightly spoilerish, where there's a head coming out of something or an eyeball opening up, where I'm like, man, I sort of wish they hadn't shown that. But it doesn't matter. Hopefully those aren't the only parts of the game. If it is, then that's a shit game, and it's probably not. Calissto Protocol looks amazing. It looks exactly like what I'm hoping for, and it's one of the most exciting titles to hit my list this year. And I say this year because that's right. December of this year, that game's coming out. I gotta admit, I didn't expect a December title of that caliber to hit, and that really does open up this fall for a couple huge games. From Hogwarts to that and a couple others, this fall actually might be a time where we're talking about games that maybe in genres that we're not necessarily accustomed to talking about during those last winter months. And speaking of talking, I am done. I'm all talked out. I hope you guys like these news videos. If you do, give it a thumbs up. If you don't, give them a thumbs up. If you want to, you can subscribe. If you don't want to, just make sure to subscribe. Regardless of all that, I hope you guys have an awesome time. Also, thanks to the various people who voted to put the ACG podcast on a couple top 10 lists for podcasts this year. 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We've had multiple thousands of people showing up per podcast, which has been astounding. We thought it might just be for the state of play. Went into 2 different podcasts with a huge number of people listening to us talk about games, talk about life, talk about stupid shit, and just enjoy yourselves as gamers. And I hope you do. Check out the Patreon. Peace out and enjoy the rest of your week.